Powered by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
The Secretary of State says the U.S. is considering all options after tanker attacks in the waterways of the Middle East. I'm Natalie Brand in Washington with what some of our allies are saying.
And a local hiker is badly hurt in a fall. Coming up, where it happened and the current condition of the hiker. Good morning to you. I'm Missy O'Malley. Chet Lehman has our forecast here in just a moment. Matt Elwell is off today. Our top story for you now. The Trump administration is calling on the world to stand up to Iran. The White House is trying to build a coalition to counter what it says is Tehran's unprovoked aggression. Natalie Brand reports from CBS from Washington.
The two ships at the center of the latest standoff between the U.S. and Iran are now anchored off the coast of the United Arab Emirates. The Japanese and Norwegian tankers were damaged by explosions last week as they navigated through the Strait of Hormuz.
The world needs to unite against this threat from the Islamic Republic of Iran.
The Trump administration insists Iran was behind the attacks. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says President Trump does not want war, but is considering all options.
Does that include a military response?
Of course, the president will consider everything we need to do.
Pompeo has been working to rally U.S. allies against Iran, but to date, only Saudi Arabia and the U.K. have accepted the administration's account of what happened.
But you'd think it would be pretty obvious who was responsible for this when we actually have video evidence that shows what the Iranians have been doing.
Democrat Adam Schiff says the White House has a credibility problem.
There's no question that Iran is behind the attack. The problem is that we are struggling, even in the midst of this solid evidence, to persuade our allies to join us in any kind of a response. And it shows just how isolated the United States has become.
The Japanese and German governments say they need to see more evidence before making a determination. And Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Now, the situation with Iran is expected to be addressed today when the UN Security Council meets in New York. Chet joins me now. A beautiful start to the day.
It's lovely outside right now.
Yeah.
I've just been out on the patio. I'm going to continue to stay out there, so I'll check with you sometime later. I'll
Sounds
be back
great.
in. I don't know, I'll wander back in the meantime. I suggest if you're going to go outside right now, enjoy it. There is a chance of some thunder showers this afternoon. There's what it looks like on satellite and radar. Not really showing a lot because there's not really a lot happening. Temperatures right now around southwest Montana hanging in the 40s and some even low 50s depending on where you are. A little cooler in West Yellowstone, but still absolutely delightful. Your planner for today, low 70s with an afternoon chance of a thunder shower, so be ready for that. Those chances of thunder showers start a little earlier in the mining city, still warming up into the the upper 60s for today. What's the rest of the week look like, Missy? I'll tell you in 10 minutes.
Thank you for that, Chad. Our top local story for you now. On Saturday evening, a hiker was transported to the hospital via air ambulance after falling at Practice Rock. One of our viewers, Lee, sent this video to us of the rescue that was happening over the weekend. Highlight Fire Department says the climber fell about 20 feet and was rescued in critical condition. Now, according to the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office, the injured climber was a 23-year-old man from Kalispell who suffered significant head injuries. Now, Sheriff Brian Gutkin says that the rescue was difficult. It's not easy to get an injured person out of that area, and that the search and rescue team is really good at what they do. We've learned that the climber was flown to Billings and is in stable condition. He is expected to recover. And now we have details on a major drug bust in Ronan where children were being exposed to dangerous drugs. 7 people were arrested this past Friday as a part of a narcotics investigation. The Ronan Police Department reports that during the course of the narcotics investigation, officers learned of 2 residences in the city where children were being exposed to those dangerous drugs. Inside one of the residences, Ronan Canine Sandor alerted that the presence of dangerous drugs, heroin, methamphetamine, and also cash was found on the premise. 4 people in that residence were arrested on drug and child endangerment charges. Police say an infant who was inside the home was removed by authorities. And then it continues. Methamphetamine, marijuana, and drug paraphernalia were found in a second residence. 3 adults were arrested on drug and criminal child endangerment. Tribal and state child protective services removed 2 small children from that second residence. Now both children are currently safe. And Sunday marked the 1 year since Jermaine Charlo was reported missing, and a reward for information leading to an arrest has increased to now $10,000. She was last seen near Orange Street Food Farm in Missoula last spring. Anyone with information is asked to call Detective Guy Baker at 396-3217. And this month's Help Flight celebrates its 40th anniversary, meaning 4 decades of taking to the skies to help Montanans in need. MTN's Samantha Sullivan spoke with the current flight team about the importance of the program.
High up in the skies above Yellowstone County, a team of paramedics gets to work.
With an ambulance background, I'm used to smaller spaces. However, this is smaller. We're used to bumpy environments. This is bumpier. In an ambulance, you can stand up and you can move around appropriately. You can't do that in the aircraft, so everything is done sitting.
They're part of the Help Flight team, an air ambulance service run out of St. Vincent Hospital.
The standard answer that you always hear when you get asked that question is, I'm doing it to help people. And this job affords me a really unique opportunity to be able to do that, where I'm autonomous with my partner to be able to deliver care when people really need it and at very critical times.
Providing life-saving care while in a relatively small helicopter or plane may not be everyone's first choice, but for Whitney Jacobs, there was never another option.
When I was 5, Help Flight came out and did a show and tell at my grade school, and the paramedic put me in. I got picked as the little girl that got to get in the aircraft, and I decided that day I wanted to be a paramedic. So with that experience, I set out all through high school looking to become a paramedic, specifically to fly for St. Vincent's Help Flight.
Growing up in rural Montana herself, Whitney saw the impact Help Flight had on the area's small ranching communities firsthand. For her, it was the best of both worlds.
It could be me, it could be my mother, it could be my father. What might not seem like a huge medical disaster to us, when you're rural, it is. And so it's a pretty neat privilege to get to help or go out and rescue, so to speak, these individuals that may have to wait hours for any sort of medical care.
Now she, along with her colleagues, are part of the program's 40-year history, a legacy of safety and care. In Billings, Samantha Sullivan, MTN News.
Wow, that's incredible. Lastly, MTN's latest episode of Under the Big Sky features award-winning Lewis & Clark Brewing Company, legendary bike maker Carl Strong, and groundbreaking design firm Lacati Architects. The latest episode of the Emmy Award-winning series airs statewide on MTN on Saturday, June 29th. And here's a little preview.
Under the Big Sky is sponsored by Rocky Mountain Vein Clinic and Markovich Real Estate.
The willingness to put yourself out there. Every once in a while, you might get it thrown back in your face, and that's okay. Then you can learn from it.
It kind of was fledgling for 6-7 years. I never would have dreamed we would be where we are right now.
It takes you out of your current world and puts you into that moment, and everything else just kind of falls away.
There is a lot of right place, right time, but it is what you make of it.
It seems like it's a pretty serious thing because we're sitting here and getting interviewed, but it's a lot of fun.
There's an entire kind of cult following of craft beer.
People that aren't familiar with bikes think that's crazy.
It's not about budget. It's not about size. It's about what is going to make this space special.
Now to be sure to tune in on.
Said if you stand on the corner.
Be sure to tune in Saturday, June 29th at 6, and again at 10:35 p.m. right here on MTN for much more Under the Big Sky. It is time for a break. Stay with us. In a moment, we're going to take a look back 25 years ago when O.J. Simpson's famous white Bronco chase stunned the nation. But first, let's check in with Anthony Mason to take a look at your headlines coming up at 7 here on CBS.
Ahead on CBS this morning, the new weapon to detect and battle digitally altered videos known as deepfakes ahead of next year's election. Plus, voters reveal what they're looking for in the huge field of Democratic presidential candidates. And two-time Oscar winner Kevin Costner will join us right here in Studio 57. We will see you at 7.